At an industry conference in Denver, my wife Lauren introduced me on stage as just a formality. She said it into the microphone, off script, with that glint in her eyes she saves for other people. The crowd laughed. Not the kind of laugh that fades out of politeness, but the cruel kind, the kind that grows louder when it senses weakness. He doesn't make any decisions here, she added, pausing like a seasoned comedian, giving them the rhythm, the punchline, the signal to go ahead and enjoy it. The spotlight hit her just right. Cameras were rolling. We were being streamed to investors, clients, analysts, strangers, the kind of people who pretend to take you seriously only when everyone else in the room does. My name was printed beneath hers on the screen behind her, smaller font, grayscale. I didn't stand. I didn't walk up. I didn't even flinch. I sat in the front row, suit pressed, hands folded in my lap. From a distance, I must have looked like a supportive husband, proud to see his wife at the helm. And maybe once that was true. Maybe for a time, I believed that standing behind her meant something noble, that it would be recognized, returned. But that night K** led it. That night, I realized what it looked like from the outside. Not partnership, not shared ambition, but a man in the passenger seat, forgotten even before the engine started. I unlocked my phone and stared at the screen, not reading anything. Just something to look at while the world turned and didn't notice me. Inside, I was still, cold, not angry, not sad. Those things had burned away years ago. This wasn't new. This was just the most public version of something I'd lived with in silence for too long. Lauren had always known how to speak in rooms. She didn't just perform. She orchestrated. She gave people just enough to make them think they were in on the joke, even when they were the punchline. And I'd let it happen. The first time it was at a dinner. She introduced me to her board as the guy who keeps the lights on, and they all laughed. I did too. Felt harmless, even sweet at the time. The second time it was during a pitch call. I had built the deck. I had written the financial forecast, line by line, over a sleepless weekend. She presented it, flawless delivery, and when the client asked who handled the numbers, she said, "Oh, my husband likes to pretend he's a CFO." I said nothing. It's easy to tell yourself these things don't matter, that love outweighs the jabs, that being behind the curtain is a choice, not an exile. But every joke becomes a story, and every story, when told enough times, becomes a truth. Tonight, she made it truth. "This next slide was his idea," she said from the stage. "So if it tanks, you know who to blame." More laughter. I didn't laugh. I didn't look up. I stared at the blue glow of my phone screen and thought, this is the moment I stop pretending. Not to her, to myself. Because the truth is, I had always known. I was useful, not necessary. Present, not respected. I paid for the flights. I paid for the venue. I hired the ghostwriter for her speech. I edited it at 2 a.m. while she slept beside me. I booked the meetings. I brokered the introductions that opened the very doors she now walked through without looking back. And in return, I was wallpaper, decorative, unacknowledged. There's something humiliating about being invisible. There's something worse about being seen just enough to be mocked. She scanned the audience like a performer riding the applause. I saw the way her eyes landed on mine. A flicker of recognition, but not regret. Just confirmation. Like she was checking that I was still where she left me, that I hadn't moved, and I hadn't. But inside, something broke. Not with a crack, with a silence. A deep, cold pause. She smiled through the closing lines of her speech, thanked the audience, stepped off stage, and started posing for photos. People surrounded her. Investors with empty eyes. Advisors who took credit for things they didn't understand. Men who shook her hand too long. Women who complimented her dress while calculating how to undercut her next pitch. The industry in full mask. She belonged there, and maybe I never had. I watched her laughing with people who would forget her name as soon as their money was wired. I watched her posing for cameras while the entire room forgot I existed. And I sat there, alone. Not physically, emotionally, morally. I sat in the front row of a stage I helped build, and understood, finally, that I wasn't a partner. I was a prop, a necessary illusion to get her through the early years. Someone to balance the books, clean up the messes, make her look grounded while she reached higher. And now, I was just in the way. I opened a notepad on my phone, typed a single line, end it quietly, but end it. I closed the app. No anger, no rush, just truth. While they clapped, while the lights dimmed, while the photos were taken and the conference rolled on, I already knew. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a contract, and I was ready to walk away, not out of spite, not to teach a lesson, but because something inside me, something essential, had gone quiet. And when a man stops defending his place at the table, it's because he's already eaten his last meal there. She didn't see it. Not yet. But she would. Because in a few minutes, while she basked in the spotlight I helped create, 3 short calls would change everything. The applause hadn't even finished. But the damage was already done. And this time, I wasn't the one who would pay for it. I stood slowly, brushing imaginary dust from my lap, straightened my jacket, smoothed the sleeves. The stage lights shifted to a panel discussion. Lauren was ushered toward it by the event manager, cheeks glowing, voice still echoing across the room as she passed the mic to someone else. The smile on her face hadn't changed. I walked out, not hurried, not dramatic, just steady. The hallway was dimmer, lined with cardboard displays and tall banners fluttering slightly from the air vents overhead. Quiet here, clean. I reached into my inside pocket and pulled out the business phone. Not the public one, the real one. 3 calls. I didn't hesitate. First call, Marcus, private equity partner. We had spoken 2 nights ago, reviewing the final draft of the shareholder agreement. His voice had been cautious then, curious. Are you sure Lauren wants to structure it this way? He'd asked. I had told him yes. Now he'd learn otherwise. He picked up on the second ring. Michael, we're mid-session. I know. I need the scheduled release delayed. Indefinitely. Silence. A beat. Are you pulling out? Not yet. Just halt the paperwork. Don't submit the filings. No language should go out until it's rewritten. Understand? A pause. Then a quieter voice. Understood. I hung up. No thanks. No explanation. Second call, Brian. My attorney. 10 years together. Handled my prenup. My first business. He didn't ask questions when I sent him contracts at 2 a.m. He'd once told me, Michael, if you call without texting first, I'll assume the house is on fire. I didn't text this time. Michael? Activate the clause. Quietly. Today. His voice lowered instantly. Escrow? Yes. And the trust. All of it. If her name's on it, remove it. If it's joint, pause it. If it can't be paused, lock it. He didn't argue. He didn't clarify. I'll update you by end of day, he said. I hung up. Third call, the bank. Escrow division. The money had been sitting there for 6 weeks, waiting for this deal to clear. 7 figures. The lifeblood of the conference. I spoke directly to the handler, the woman who had signed off on the hold agreement. Cancel disbursement. Block any automatic transfer. Do not release funds until you hear from me in writing. She hesitated. Mr. Wakefield, we were told this account. It's my name on the deposit. You follow my instruction. Do you understand me? Another pause. Then, understood. I hung up. 3 short calls. Less than 7 minutes total. No raised voice. No theatrics. Just the severing of arteries. Quiet. Surgical. Behind me, in the ballroom, the panel had started. Lauren's voice filtered faintly through the doors. She was talking about collaborative innovation, a phrase we both used to mock when no one was listening. Now she said it without irony. And somewhere backstage, the floor began to shift. The first signs were small. One of the junior analysts, Anna, I think, stood near the catering table, phone in hand, frowning at her inbox. She refreshed it. Again. Then again. Another associate walked briskly across the mezzanine, phone pressed to his ear, mumbling something about documents that hadn't cleared. Lauren kept speaking. She didn't notice. By the time I reached the side hallway leading toward the green room, 3 people had already gathered there, whispering in clipped tones. The emails were bouncing. The document links had gone stale. The automatic clearance into the shared data room had been revoked. The contracts hadn't finalized. The money wasn't there. One man, thick glasses, pressed suit, the kind of person who makes himself loud when he's nervous, stormed toward one of the organizers. "You said the escrow was guaranteed." "It is," she replied, panic creeping under her foundation makeup. "It was. I don't know what's happening." They made more calls. Nothing connected. I stood to the side, half in shadow, watching it unfold. The machinery of the deal, months in the making, layered with PR campaigns and NDAs and performance clauses, had **N to grind. And when that machine grinds without grease, it burns. Lauren exited the stage smiling, arm in arm with the moderator. A photographer snapped their picture mid-laugh. She waved at someone, accepted a drink, leaned in for another selfie. She still didn't see it. But backstage, the questions were rising. I walked deeper into the service corridor. My badge gave me access to the restricted prep area, leftover from the early setup days when we were still pretending we were equals in this venture. There was a tall monitor showing the schedule. Someone had already delayed the next panel by 15 minutes. Then 30. An assistant ran past me holding a clipboard and a phone, muttering. He said it was confirmed. Before disappearing around a corner, another call came in. Marcus again. I stepped into a side room and answered. "Michael, you need to clarify what's going on. Half the room is asking me if the deal's still real." "It was never real to them," I said. "They laughed when she made the announcement. They laughed at me." A pause. "So this is personal?" "No," I said. "This is formal." He went silent. "You'll get a revised schedule," I said, "when I decide the terms are worth honoring again." I hung up. Outside the green room, the energy had changed. The same smiles that welcomed Lauren offstage had thinned. The hands offering her champagne now held cell phones. The air had turned tight. She noticed it now. Not fully, not consciously, but enough to start adjusting her expression. The laughing photos stopped. The selfies paused. Her eyes flicked across the hallway. She saw me. We locked eyes. She started walking toward me. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. Because she knew. She didn't know what I'd done. Not yet. Not fully. But she knew the look on my face. The calm one. The quiet one. The one I wore when the decision had already been made. 20 minutes. That's how long it took for confusion to curdle into fear. The panel had run short. Lauren stepped down early. A little too eager. Still waiting for someone to tell her how well she'd done. She adjusted her blazer. Smoothed her hair. The usual fanfare followed. Half-hearted applause. Applause that didn't match the smiles. The host made a vague remark about a technical delay. The first whisper hit the back rows like a ripple. I watched it travel forward. Each person looked at their phone, at their inbox, then at the person beside them. 3 notifications didn't arrive. The conference app updated. The investor dashboard glitched. Refresh. Reload. Still nothing. The questions started in hushed tones. Did the escrow confirm? Why isn't the document link opening? Wait. Isn't the data room supposed to unlock now? Lauren reappeared near the registration table, surrounded by a different kind of attention. Her usual circle, assistants, stylists, PR flacks, hovered, but quieter now. The energy had shifted. The invisible cord of admiration had been clipped, and she felt it, not yet in words, not directly, but like animals sense a storm before the first thunderclap. She felt the change. She reached for her phone, checked it. No messages, no updates, no texts from me. I hadn't messaged her all day. That silence was the loudest thing in the room now. The panel room emptied fast. Not with applause, not with interest, but with haste. People walking with purpose. Fast steps. Phones glued to their ears. Organizers whispered by the curtained wall. The moderator was nowhere to be seen. And I watched from the edge. A shadow behind a pillar, a ghost among name tags and lanyards. One investor, the real kind, the quiet kind, walked briskly past me. I caught the tail end of his words on the phone. No, something's off. He hasn't confirmed. Pull the term sheet and sit tight. He wasn't talking about Lauren. He was talking about me. The illusion had cracked. The applause that once wrapped around her like armor had vanished. In its place, silence. The one thing she was never prepared for. I slipped into a service stairwell and leaned against the concrete wall. The air was cool, untouched by the filtered lighting of the conference halls. Here I could listen. The building's pipes hummed. Footsteps echoed from above. Voices bounced off walls, tight, angry, clipped. I heard names. Michael said, but he promised. It was his numbers, not hers. That was the thing they never understood. I wasn't the one with the spotlight. I wasn't the one giving speeches. But I was the one whose voice made the money move. And now the money had stopped. I emerged 10 minutes later, calm. The hallway outside the green room looked different now. The walls weren't glowing anymore. The LED screens showed stock tickers and sponsor logos, the kind that look prestigious when things go well, desperate when they don't. Lauren stood near a pillar, phone in hand, expression carved in steel. She had made 4 calls in the last 5 minutes. None of them had gone her way. The organizer, name tag flipped, headset askew, approached her slowly. I heard the exchange from 30 feet away. They're asking if the final deck is ready. Lauren frowned. It was uploaded this morning. It's gone. The drive's blank. She blinked. Then re-upload it. I can't. Your permissions are locked. A pause. Not a long one, just long enough for the word to land. Locked. Lauren's voice dropped. Who locked it? No answer. She stepped forward, whispering something sharp. The organizer nodded quickly, turned, and disappeared into the crowd. I stayed back. I didn't interfere. She didn't know yet. She suspected. She felt the shape of it. The silence. The confusion. The sudden vacuum where control used to be. But she hadn't connected it. Not completely. The deal was still technically alive. The paperwork still existed. But every artery that carried blood to it had been closed. She walked toward the side room where her PR team was stationed. They looked up, then quickly down. The one with the tablet opened the dashboard, saw nothing. Did Michael pull the staging? Lauren asked, her voice a little too loud now. No one answered. Her assistant glanced at her, eyes darting. We can ask. Lauren turned away. She pulled her phone up again. Called me. I watched the screen light up. My name. Her face. I declined the call. She froze. That was when she realized. Not what I had done. Not yet. But that I had done something. That I wasn't waiting in the wings. That I wasn't backstage with a clipboard and a safety net. That the man she had introduced as just a formality wasn't where she left him. She lowered the phone. Walked quickly to the VIP suite. Inside, her general counsel, 2 members of the original advisory board, and a woman I didn't recognize, probably compliance. The door closed behind them. The panic started to show. Her voice rose. Just once. Then she lowered it again. I leaned against a nearby pillar, unseen, watching the conference unravel. One panel was canceled. Another delayed. A new alert went out. Please enjoy the networking lounge. Light refreshments available. Which meant, we're stalling. Lauren reappeared 10 minutes later. She didn't look at anyone. She moved like someone underwater. Mouth tight, shoulders tense, feet fast. She wasn't smiling anymore. And now people were noticing. Her silence spoke louder than her keynote. The image was cracking. Investors didn't chase her. They stepped back. She passed by 3 who once fought for a chance to get 5 minutes with her. Now they checked their watches, their phones, pretended not to see. She turned a corner and saw me. I was sitting alone in a corner chair. No badge, no title, just presence. She stopped mid-step. For the first time that day, she approached me without performance. No smile, no pose, just her. She sat, didn't speak. I waited. She looked at my hands, at my posture, and she knew, not every detail, but the shape of it. The deal was dying. The money was frozen. And the person she had erased with a joke was the one who held every key she needed. Her voice, when it came, was thin, controlled. "Michael, what did you do?" I looked at her for a long time. Not angry, not vindictive, just patient. Like a teacher waiting for a student to realize the question had been on the board the entire time. She blinked first. "I didn't mean it that way," she added. "You know how these things go." I raised a hand. She stopped. Her eyes welled, whether from stress, embarrassment, or the realization that none of her tricks would work here. "I don't know. I was nervous," she said. "I didn't mean for it to come out like that. People laughed, that's all. It wasn't supposed to." But even she couldn't finish it, because she saw the room now. She saw the chaos, the whispers, the absence of momentum. The spotlight she once craved now flickered cold. She had been the star. Now she was the question no one wanted to answer. And I, the man she introduced as irrelevant, was the only one who hadn't left. Not because I wanted to stay, because I wanted her to see it. The moment it clicked. The moment she understood what she had truly traded for applause. I didn't stay to watch the final collapse. I stood when she finished speaking, if you can call it speaking. Her voice had thinned to something brittle, careful, stripped of its rhythm. The kind of voice people use when they already know the answer but are afraid to hear it out loud. I didn't correct her. I didn't explain. There was nothing left to clarify. The contract would expire by morning. The escrow would remain frozen. The partners would quietly disengage. Not with anger, with distance. That's how reputations die in this world. Not loudly, just efficiently. Lauren followed me as I walked toward the exit. Not grabbing my arm. Not calling my name. Just keeping pace beside me, heels clicking too fast for the hallway. "Michael," she said finally, low, controlled. "You didn't have to do this." I stopped, looked at her. The woman who once practiced speeches in our kitchen mirror. The woman I defended in rooms she never knew were hostile. The woman who laughed while I disappeared in front of a crowd. "I didn't," I said. She frowned. "You pulled the deal." "No," I replied. "I stopped protecting it." That landed. I saw it in her eyes. Not understanding, recognition. She swallowed. "We can fix this. I can explain. I'll tell them it was a misunderstanding." "That the joke?" I shook my head. Slow. Final. "It wasn't a joke," I said. "It was a truth you were comfortable saying out loud." She looked away. That was new. We stood there while people passed us carrying branded tote bags and half-finished drinks. The conference was ending early. Quietly. Like something embarrassed to exist. "I never said you weren't important," she whispered. "You didn't have to," I said. I picked up my coat. "I spent years making sure you never looked small," I continued. "I handled the things you didn't want to touch. I absorbed the risk so you could stand clean under the lights. And the moment you thought the room belonged to you alone, you let them laugh." Her voice broke. "I didn't think." "That's the point," I said. I walked past her then. Toward the doors. Toward the cold air waiting outside. She didn't follow. She couldn't. Because for the first time, there was nothing she could say that would move me back into position. Outside, the night was sharp and quiet. Denver air. Honest air. I breathed it in and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not triumph. Not satisfaction. Relief. I didn't destroy her career. I didn't sabotage her future. I didn't take revenge. I removed myself. And when you remove the man who has been quietly holding everything together, the structure reveals what it really is. Fragile. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for apologies. I didn't wait for promises. Some lessons arrive too late to be useful. Sometimes you don't need to prove you're in charge. You just need to stop standing in rooms where people feel comfortable laughing at you. So tell me, was I wrong to walk away without a fight? Or is dignity the one thing you're never supposed to negotiate?